What's going on, everyone? This is the Real Powerhouse Podcast. I'm your host, BJ Gramillion. And today, I'm just going to talk to you guys for a little bit and share some of the thoughts that I have surrounding the real estate market. And reason being, one, I've been meaning to, be active on social media. But man, I tell you what, it's been just a crazy couple of months trying to get everything kind of up off the ground here in Chattanooga and running smoothly. And really, we've been focusing on, we've had a lot of growth, a lot of new properties. And so the focus really has been on our project management side of things, as well as our property management. And so it's been hectic and crazy. But I do like to come on every once in a while. I feel like this is probably the best way for me just to share what I'm seeing, what I'm reading, what my thoughts are around the real estate market. And the reason being is I've heard several people recently that I know and respect, and really smart people in the industry reach out on social media, and they're basically calling it. And so I don't know necessarily what that means, but they are basically coming out and saying, hey, look, I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, but I'm going to call it. So let's dive into, I guess, what that means, because by them saying that, they feel that there's a crash coming, it could obviously mean a lot of things. I think the most important thing for people to realize, and this is where I feel so many people get stuck or hung up when it comes to the real estate market, is they think that what happened in 2008 will happen again. And so I think it's incredibly important that everyone understand that every single market crash is unique. So you will never see 2008 again, period. Just get that out of your head and forget about it. Everything about 2008 was very different than what we're looking at, in 2023. Will a market crash occur? I don't know. Will there be a correction in the economy? Absolutely. When will that happen? No idea. Anyone that gets out there and they make these big, bold predictions, typically fall flat on their face, especially these YouTubers. I don't know if you guys have been following this or not, but people have been on YouTube and claiming that there's going to be this next crash for honestly the last 6 years, probably. There was shadow inventory, then obviously COVID occurred. And then, it's got to be right after COVID. That was a nice little bump, but, then I'm sure something else is going to happen. And then Airbnb bust. And, there's so many things that people have tried to predict. And then, of course, recently it was the mortgage interest rates. And they're thinking, okay, this is it. And I mean, look, I get it. I understand why there would be fear and cause for concern. But, it's just interesting. I was reminded recently on Netflix, there's The Big Short. I don't know if you guys have seen that movie. But the main character in that, it's based off a, true story. But I was reading up about him, and it's so funny because he predicted the crash of 2008, right? What people don't know, though, is he's also predicted, I think, 6 different times since then, he's predicted another crash. And recently he came out again and said that it's coming. But you know what? You kind of lose credibility after you're wrong over and over and over again. But it's funny, all of us just remember that one time that he was right. And so he gets this, spotlight on him, which I'm sure he probably doesn't enjoy the spotlight. Maybe he does. But I mean, he's been wrong so many times that it gets to that point where the broken clock, comes into play where, yeah, sure, I'm sure he's going to be right one of these times. You just keep on predicting it every year, and I'm sure that he's going to be right one of these times, and everyone's going to say he's a genius. So rather than me sit here and predict the market and tell you guys what's going to happen and have this doom and gloom, I think it's just smart to look at what do we know. And yeah, if we can look at just what the facts are, I'm sure that all of us can draw our own conclusion and kind of figure out what to do. But anyone that's going to predict mortgage interest rates or interest rates, period, that's a fool's game. No one's going to win that. Smart people like Warren Buffett, they don't predict the market. They just are in it, consistently. That's all there is to it. And so, which does actually remind me, I listened to a podcast recently. So I come from the financial advising world. I was with Edward Jones when I got out of college, and I was a financial advisor. And so I was in that space for a while. And one of the concepts that I would, preach all the time to people was dollar cost averaging. So for those of you that don't know what dollar cost averaging is, basically it's just if you were to invest, consistently every single month, let's say $1,000 every month, no matter what, into some mutual fund or, follow the S&P 500, whatever you want to do some index fund. If you just were to consistently invest your money, you're going to hit some highs, some lows, some averages. And so, but over time, the idea is, hey, if you do that consistently, you always come out ahead. It's the law of averages. It always ends up working in your favor. And so, it's funny though, I've never really, I guess, applied that to real estate until now, where it just kind of dawned on me where it's like, hey, look, something that I've realized, what I've been doing out here in Tennessee has been, look, again, I don't know where the market's going to go. Some people think it's going to take off. Other people think that, it's going to crash and burn. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with mortgage interest rates either. Like all that stuff, couldn't tell you. What I do know though is I'm going to hit on a few, and some of them will be singles, some of them will be doubles. I'll hit some homers. And then, the idea is to not have that many strikeouts, but they will occur. And so you just got to be okay with that. And trust me, the last year I've had plenty of strikeouts, and 2022 was brutal, right? But we made it through it. We just consistently continued to invest, just like anyone would with their 401k. Some years are up, some are down. You just got to keep on going. And so that's something that I've learned in real estate as well, is just be consistent. Like if you're every single year trying to buy one new property, add that to your portfolio, then find a way to save up money and do it again and again, it's amazing the compound interest effect that it really does have. And so something to think about for people that are like, man, is it a good time to invest? I don't know. It all depends on what is your definition of what is a good time to invest. I couldn't tell you. But what I do know is that over time, real estate, even if you bought in 2006 or 2007, right before the crash, and you were feeling horrible about that for about 5, 6, 7, 10 years, until you weren't, until now. And now I'm sure that it's worth double or triple what you at the time thought was a horrible investment. And so, it's the same thing today. We bought a home in Knoxville, overpaid, absolutely overpaid for it. I have no doubt about it. Interest rates brutal. It's, we did a buy down on it, a 2-1 buy down, which basically, instead of us being at 6.9%, I think is what it was, we're at 4.9% for the first year, hoping that the interest rates will come down a little bit, And so if we get somewhere in the 5s, we'll probably refinance before year 3, where it goes all the way back up to 6.9. And so, even with that scenario, I keep telling myself, hey, not everything is an investment, first of all. So it is our residence, our personal residence. And so I don't always have to make money on every real estate deal. There can be, school districts and church, those kind of things do play a factor, believe it or not. But it's also, just something to consider that, hey, I might think that right now I'm overpaying. And to be honest with you guys, I honestly can say that I feel like I overpay for just about every deal that I buy. I'm always thinking in the back of my mind, I could have got that for a little bit less. I could have maybe bought that for 10,000 less, or whatever the case would be. And it's funny because then every time I go to sell it, and I'm sure that buyer thinks the same thing, and it's just this cycle that goes on. But, it remains to be the case, throughout time, is just wait. A bad investment in real estate, almost always, as long as you're not in a horrible war zone or bad area location, that will kill you. Maybe literally, but in this case, financially is what I'm talking about. But don't buy in bad areas because you can't really survive when you do that. trust me, I've done that. And so you just got to be careful about where you buy. But as long as you're buying in the right area, give it time, and it will eventually come around. So, okay, let me jump into a couple headlines that I've come across, some things I've been thinking about, and hopefully some of this resonates and helps someone out there that maybe has questions about the real estate market, that maybe doesn't follow it, and doesn't think about it, pretty much every waking minute of their day, like me, which I know is unhealthy. But anyways, so okay, Jerome Powell, the Fed chairman, he came out last week on Thursday and said, okay, we're going to keep rates the same. And we might have one more rate hike coming up. After that, we're going to hit pause. We're going to let it do its thing. And we'll probably wait for potentially a year, but they're going to assess the market, the economy, see where things go, see if inflation comes down. But when he announced that, I think that a lot of people in the mortgage industry were pretty bummed out, as they have been for the last 18 months, just because it's just everyone was hoping, I think, that at some point they would cut the rate and they would start, getting aggressive and coming down, and the mortgage rates would come down with it. He just said, look, we're going to stay, which I think is the right thing to do. I think that they probably didn't need to do the last 3 to 4 rate hikes, to be honest with you. I think they should have waited so that they don't have to aggressively cut the rate, if everything goes to crap. I think it would have been wise to sit and watch, for a little bit longer, but whatever, they did it. And so, so what that means is that the interest rates are probably going to be right around that 7% rate where they're at right now. For at least the next 6 months, and obviously there's so many caveats to what I'm telling you right now. But I think that the odds would be, okay, it's probably going to be in the 7% range. And then I know that NAR, National Association of Realtors, Zillow, I think a couple other websites I was looking at, they project 2024 interest rates to be right around the 6.25%. And some are, a little bit less, a little bit more, but I think that to me sounds about right. And I think that's going to be kind of the new norm for a while. So it's going to take a while to adjust. Now, with that said, here is why I do not see a housing crash occurring. And I am not going to be in the camp of people that are hitting the panic button saying that the housing market's going to crash. Now, commercial, industrial, I do think that there's some issues there, because those loans are not 30-year fixed products. Typically, commercial and industrial, they're on balloon payments, which just means that after 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, they readjust to whatever their interest rates are today. So imagine buying a deal that you felt cash flowed really well, multifamily, $100 million project, and your interest rate was at 3%. Well, guess what? Now it's at 7.5 or 8%. Yeah, that can really hurt. Okay, so that actually can definitely cause some issues, and that's what everyone is freaking out about right now. There is an understanding that these rates will hit those people with those type of loans. Now, the greatest loan, and who would have thought, that this would be like the greatest shield of all time, from keeping everyone going back into the 2008 foreclosure, is a 30-year fixed loan, right? So again, go back to 2008. Why did that happen? It's because the financing was out of control. If you had a pulse, you could get a loan. And so they were underwriting properties that no one had any business getting those loans. And they were exotic loan structures, meaning they had 1, 2, 3 different liens on it, right? So you'd have a second mortgage, a third mortgage to pay, so you don't have to put any money down. Well, all of those had balloons, which were, let's say, 2, 3 years out. So again, when 2010, 11 hit and you bought a home 2008, guess what? That's going to come due, and all of a sudden people couldn't pay it. And then of course, everyone lost their job during that time. And so no one had the money to pay for it. So it was the perfect storm. Okay. Like, it just worked out that way. They do not allow a lot of those loans moving forward. They did the Dodd-Frank revisions. Everyone balked about it at the time, including myself. But turns out it ended up being a pretty good deal, because what it did was it forced people that were underwriting loans to do it the right way, make sure people actually could qualify for these loans. And they put them in 30-year loan products that just really it's the greatest hedge ever, against all of the inflation that we're experiencing right now. Everything is going up except for your 30-year fixed mortgage at 3% or wherever you're at. So that's really important to understand. And this is why I feel like there's not going to be this massive crash in the residential real estate market anytime soon. Maybe there is, again, commercial industrial. That is our greatest protector, though, is the 30-year fixed product. Now, to go with that, another thing to understand, this is a crazy statistic, by the way, 45 to 50% of homeowners today own their home. They do not have a mortgage on it. That's a big number. Okay, take that other 50%. They all have mortgages that are less than 4%. 85% of those people have loans that are below 4%. Okay, so you have 15% left that do not have these incredible loans on their home right now. And so that's a pretty dang small number. Now, keep that in mind when you think about in 2019, it was estimated that we were at a 4 million home shortage. So 2008 happened, builders stopped building for about 5 years. They didn't start picking up for a long time because they didn't want to get burned again. They just had PTSD from what occurred. So they stopped building. That caused this huge issue down the road, right? And so all of a sudden there's not enough homes. And so we've got this, and it's only gotten worse, by the way, since 2019. There were about 2.2 million active listings on the market at that time. Now there's less than 1.3 million nationwide active listings. That is insane. It's about a 40% drop. And so you look at the amount of inventory, you look at the amount of people that are willing to sell. And the other thing to factor in that a lot of people don't think about is, where do buyers come from? Well, guess what? Sellers become buyers, right? So you need people to actively list their home and sell their home, because typically they're, moving up or whatever. They have kids, they need a bigger home, or they need to relocate or whatever. Well, we need them to list their home on the market, and then, they end up going and buying one. Well, the issue, again, interest rates are below 4% for the majority of the people. So guess what? They don't want to sell their home. They are going to be just like us. They're going to do whatever they can to not sell their home today. They want to keep that and then do a long-term, short-term rental, whatever the case may be, and have that paid down by someone else, which is the smart thing to do, obviously. But it just causes more of an issue, right? We look at the inventory, and it just gets worse and worse. And it's like this poison pill that the Fed did unintentionally. I don't think that they did this. They're not smart enough. Honestly, I think the government is incredibly incompetent and very, very slow to react. And so I don't think that they had this grand idea that these doomsdayers think of. I truly just feel like, just realize that they're incompetent, and that will answer everything. It's not that they had this, that they foresaw any of this, because I truly don't think that they did. But to that point, they kept rates super low, after COVID occurred, and they kept it way too low for way too long. Not a surprise. They're old and slow, always have been. The Fed is going to always be behind, right? It's just how they are. So because of that, there's just this poison pill when it came to giving everyone essentially free money, right? And so everyone's got these loans, and so they've caused a major issue right now with the housing market. And so when people ask, why is housing still up for the year? Why are home prices still going up after what just occurred? Which, by the way, many of you may not know this, but we had the largest crash in demand in 1 year period in 2022. That was the largest crash in demand we've ever seen. Not a lot of people talk about that, but it was huge. Like, it was massive. Obviously, those in the real estate industry definitely felt it, that, relied on volume for, their revenue. We felt it, but, that actually, I mean, it was a rough 2022. And not only that did we have the biggest crash in demand, we also had the fastest rate hikes ever, record, I think, in like the last 50 years, where it went, essentially from 0 to 5% or five and a quarter. So all of that combined, and yet all that did, it just made the problem worse. Again, it's just supply and demand. So you look at it and you're like, okay, well, yes, interest rates are high, but the few people that do have to move and find a place to live, they only have a couple homes to choose from. And so bidding wars will still occur, and you're still going to have issues with home pricing being inflated, because you get multiple people bidding on a home, and it drives up the price. And so then I look towards next year. Okay, let's just say that the interest rates, let's all hope, go down from 7 to 7.5% down to 6.5%. Let's say it goes down a full point. What that does is it unlocks, according to BlackRock, it unlocks about 5 million new buyers. So does that solve the problem by adding way more buyers? Absolutely not. I'm sure that some of those people, again, sellers or buyers, I'm sure that that's going to cause more people to be willing to sell their home once they wrap their head around the fact they'll never see those interest rates of 3 to 4% again, and this is the new norm. Sure, that's going to happen. Some people are forced to have to do it. But again, I just, you look at the numbers, and I don't see it, guys. Like, I don't understand these doomsdayers that think that there's going to be this massive market correction, and that, home prices are going to come way down, and people are, gearing up to buy these homes. I'm like, that's great. But where are the homes going to come from? Where is this shadow inventory that everyone's been talking about on YouTube for the last 10 years or whatever it's been? If you don't know what shadow inventory is, you should look it up. It's pretty funny. There's so many predictions that these people on YouTube that, get clicks have predicted forever. And I get these calls all the time, like what I think is going to happen with the market. And I just have to laugh, because it's tired at this point. They've been so wrong. It's embarrassing at this point. And so it's not even worth addressing. It's just one of those things where, clearly there are people out there that just almost want the market to crash, for whatever reason. But anyways, getting off topic. So, those are all of the thoughts. Oh, and the last thing, is, I think that, I don't know if I mentioned this, but we were down, about 4 million when they ran the numbers. There was a shortage of roughly 4 million homes when they did this survey in 2019. And so COVID happened, hit pause again, and then they restarted. 2021 is when builders started building again. They got, aggressive and realized, hey, everything's selling like crazy. And so stock prices went up for new construction companies. But it's interesting. In November of 2022, we started to see a shift, and that was with the home builders. All of a sudden, they went from being pessimistic to once again being optimistic. And again, I think that they realized the same thing that I did, where it's just, look, there's barely any inventory. No one is going to give up their homes with those incredible mortgage interest rates if they can help it. And so guess what? The only game in town right now is going to be the new construction. And so there's a reason why right now, a large percentage of sales right now are new construction, which is rare. Usually it's less than like 5% of home sales each year are new construction. And I think right now it's like 15-20%. So again, they're just seeing the same thing that all of us are seeing. They're also very good at selling their product. So they understand they can do rate buy downs. They can do things to get people, to buy these homes quickly. And so if you're interested in the stock market, I would probably tell you that there's a good likelihood that there's potential there. I'm not going to give you advice, but I would look into that and just see if that's something worth looking into. Just because, again, I don't think any of this is difficult to really understand. It's just take a minute to understand the numbers, and then once you kind of look at the bigger picture, then you can formulate, okay, what should I do next? And so this all comes down to why we were so passionate about moving out to Tennessee in this specific market, where I feel like, there's affordable housing. There's plenty of people moving to the Southeast every single year. There is massive opportunity for equity growth, and there's affordable housing, right? So there's all of the things that you look for as a real estate investor, I feel like are here in Tennessee, which is a big reason why we're out here. And, we started up a turnkey property management company because I know a lot of people want to get into real estate investing, but they don't know how to, find the property. They don't know how to renovate it. They don't know what areas to buy in. They don't know how to manage a property, how to find tenants, all of those things. I get it. Like, it took 15 years of going through it over and over and over thousands of times, to kind of really hone in and figure it out, right? Just like anything. And so a big reason why we came out here was for that reason. And so going back to the dollar cost averaging idea, I really do think that is the solution. If you're trying to time the market, you're listening to the wrong person. I'm not going to give you advice on that. But if you're looking for just a way to consistently overcome, the market, whether it's up, down, sideways, it doesn't matter. Just be consistent with investing in quality properties, quality neighborhoods, and making sure that they're managed correctly. If you do those things, you're going to be just fine. And then, oh, by the way, taxes, obviously, end of the year. If you want to save a ton of money on your taxes, just make sure to buy real estate, rental properties. Right now you can do, I think that there's another 3, well, let's see. I think that it ends in the next 2 to 3 years, where there's accelerated depreciation. If anyone's interested in learning more about that and how you can, find ways to accelerate the depreciation on it to save a lot of money on your taxes, happy to answer those questions for you. But anyways, I just wanted to share, really, those are all the thoughts that have been going on in my head, for the past several months. And I've been meaning to jump on a podcast and just talk about, some of the things that are going on, some of the things that I'm seeing. This is why I'm doing what I'm doing. This is what I believe is going to occur with the real estate market, and just kind of get all those thoughts out there. So I'm hoping that maybe this helped, some of you out there that listen. And, as always, if I can help answer any questions, this is what I love to do. This is what I love to talk about. So I really could talk about this all day. And this is why I enjoy having the podcast as well. So I can get some of these thoughts out of my head and out to y'all. So hope everyone is enjoying their fall. This is going to be the first time we get to experience a true fall since we've been married. And so I'm excited to see the leaves change and the temperature drop and all of those fun things. We're excited to go to the Smoky Mountains and enjoy the nature, right? Like I just feel like for so long we just lived out in the desert and there's just a bunch of dirt and cactuses and scorpions. So it's been fun to get out every single week and go on these amazing hikes. Anyways, there's a lot to love out here. All right, that's all I got for this week, and we'll see y'all next week.